Hello, and welcome to this week's Movie Math, where we're going to take a look at a weekend that must be very demoralizing, not just for Disney and Marvel, but for their fans as well. Disney's publicity department and the stars of Thunderbolts worked so hard to promote this movie. Critics love it. And the fans who came out to see the movie, we're going to talk about that was a bit of a problem. But the ones who did show up, they love it, with some of you even seeing the film 2 to 3 times this very weekend. I mean, it's great for Disney to have your money right now, but are you going to come back for a 4th and 5th time? Or are you done? Are you done? Do you see any more trips to the multiplex to see Thunderbolts in your future? But even with all that, Disney, it was such an amazing last-minute push. The movie was trending multiple times over its opening weekend on social media, yet still, they couldn't really move the needle. Thunderbolts was projected to open in the 70s, as it has, weeks ago, tracking that was so alarming to Disney and Marvel that's why they released the Doomsday promo, putting the Thunderbolts chairs up front. They were like, see this movie? And people were like, I eventually will on digital or Disney+. Doomsday is a long way away. Because here we still are, in the 70s. If you didn't see Thunderbolts this weekend, despite the huge push that was done, why did it fail to get you off the bench and into theaters? This opening is lower than Captain America 4's debut, with the trade saying that 1 million less moviegoers showed up to see Thunderbolts, despite everybody saying it's a far superior film, and people arguing they didn't realize that Sam Wilson had become Captain America because they didn't watch the Disney Plus show, but yet 1 million more people turned up for that movie. What do you think Disney Marvel could possibly have done to get the box office numbers to be higher? And the overseas box office is weak, which is perhaps the most troubling of all. Sure, we have to dial back our box office expectations as Marvel now has to launch new characters and teams. It's not going to be like the second or third entry for a group or a character, so we got to start a little bit further back and then we build ourselves back up again, right? Well, Doctor Strange, which was the first movie for a new character, 66% of its box office came from overseas. And Ant-Man and the Wasp, which did a little better than, Ant-Man was never a big box office performer and is partially responsible for destroying the MCU with Quantumania. But that second film also did about 2/3 of its box office overseas. And therefore, both movies were able to get to the 600 million range overall. But with, again, Thunderbolts, so soft overseas, out of the gate, and a very soft domestic debut, if you look at Eternals and Shang-Chi, which opened also in the 70s, this means we're headed towards a worldwide total likely in the 400s, just like Cap 4. Oh my goodness. Thunderbolts' break-even point is thankfully 450, but still, as I said, demoralizing. Are you feeling down and out, like you just can't catch up, but you want to do better? Well, a big part of feeling better about yourself and getting a fresh start is eating right. And Factor from our friends at HelloFresh can help with that. I don't know about you, but I feel better both physically and about myself when I'm eating right. But that can be hard to do. Fresh and healthy food is usually expensive in both time and money, but that's where Factor comes in. Factor's ready-to-eat, always fresh, never frozen meals are carefully curated, healthy, but also tasty and creative instead of bland and boring. You want to go on a vegan diet? Tonight you could be eating spicy sweet potatoes and peanut sauce. Want to go keto? How about Peruvian shrimp and red pepper cauli grits? Focusing on protein? There's the shredded chicken taco bowl. Or you could just go calorie smart with sausage, mushroom, and pepper fusilli. And you can even treat yourself with Factor's Gourmet Plus. Who doesn't love some filet mignon when they sit down for their favorite streaming show in the evening? Just imagine all the time and money you'll save not having to go to the grocery store, not being tempted to get takeout, and not having to cook and clean up with these fresh, never frozen, ready in just 2 minutes in the microwave, quality meals that are delivered right to your door in a schedule of your choosing. Plus, you can add breakfast items, smoothies, and snacks to keep you on the go and healthy while still eating fun and tasty food. And to really help you out, I've got a deal for you. Head to factor75.com or click the link right down below and use code 50BTT to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first Factor box. That's code 50BTT at factor75.com to get 50% off plus free shipping your first Factor box. Get your summer off to a healthy and fun start. And thanks to Factor for sponsoring this episode of Movie Math. Now, what does this mean for the rest of the summer movie season? As we've been discussing, Hollywood suddenly has their own Punxsutawney Phil, where if the first movie of the summer doesn't open with over $100 million, it's bad. It's a bad omen for the rest of the season. Again, we've been discussing box office for a very long time. This has never come up before, but it is kind of funny because, it's funny because people were like, a lot of people, and some people still are rooting for Disney Marvel to fail, but some people were so moved by Thunderbolts, suddenly they're like, oh, I want this movie to do well. But then you have this, which is just another thing to be like, oh, it's another hurdle that you didn't get over there. So, last year, Fall Guy really didn't open with $100 million, and Disney still managed to get $2 billion movies over the summer. So let's not go crazy. But it is unusual. The last time a movie kicking off the summer movie season didn't open with $100 million was 2014 with The Amazing Spider-Man 2, which opened with close to $100 million at 91.6 for a worldwide total of 708. Oh, what? Is there hope? Well, that movie had an enormous 70% of its box office from overseas. So you can see how valuable and important overseas box office is. Something as low as Thunderbolts. When was the last time that happened? Well, that you'd have to go back to 2011, where you had two movies actually that opened at the beginning of summer. Fast Five snuck in there first with 86.1, followed by the very first Thor movie with 65.7, right? It took Thor a while to find his footing. And I think when you look at their worldwide totals, that's likely the range for what Thunderbolts could do. If the movie really legs out, there's still a chance that it could make it to the 600 range. At this point, it would be lucky to do so. Where we'd hope would be its comfortable space is now, oh, I hope it can do it. Because, before the movie hit theaters and when we, on Friday when we were talking about the Thursday night box office, we were kind of excited because we liked the movie and the buzz was really strong. Everything seemed to be falling into place. So we were like, heck, maybe it could even get into the 700 million range, like the Batman or Dune Part 2, both Warner Brothers movies. What does this mean for Superman? Also, of course, a Warner Brothers movie. Or what about Fantastic Four, which is coming up next from Disney Marvel? Everybody was so excited about that post-credit scene. It felt like there was momentum, but now it seems maybe there is no momentum. Those are the remaining superhero movies for the rest of the summer, and I believe for the year. And while the Wall Street Journal just ran a deep dive article on how Kevin Feige is trying to get the MCU back on track, where in the article at least, they finally admit it was Disney Plus that derailed Marvel. It's a funny article to read. It has this chart is very interesting. That's hours of MCU storytelling, how you can see it's exploded with the adding of Disney Plus to the mix. And, the quote is that Kevin Feige himself said that watching the MCU has become more homework than entertainment. I think it's an interesting article. It's interesting to watch normies who don't actually watch comic book movies try to figure out what's wrong with them. If you actually talk to people who actually consume this content, and it makes me wonder if the people at Marvel watch their own, or what's that famous saying, right? I'm not just the owner, I'm a customer. Do they consume their own content? For us, many of us, the writing's been on the wall for quite some time at this point. It's like, oh, that's adorable. Look at you try to figure it out. You're almost there, but some of that stuff is totally off. You're not going to fix it if that's what you're thinking. But here's what I'm thinking, and it's a scary thought, but maybe, just maybe, the superhero genre has run its course. Look at the Western. From the 1940s to the 1960s, the Western was the superhero genre of the time. People just couldn't get enough of Westerns, and they still have yet to come back. Because Hollywood, it's also the way Hollywood operates. Once they have something that's working, they run it into the ground. And they did that with Westerns, and they've done it with superhero content. And they still make Westerns, and they're still going to make superhero content. I mean, The Boys and Invincible are only gaining in momentum over in the streaming space. But in the movie space, maybe not as many superhero movies, and certainly not as often. For instance, Batman movies, they come out usually every 3 to 4 years, with even longer breaks between Batman. Same for Bond movies, X-Men movies, and that's what the Avatar franchise is planning to do. The idea of multiple movies from a single franchise in a single year? Methinks that might be part of the problem. In its early days, Marvel was only releasing 2 films a year and no streaming shows. And as of right now, going forward, they only plan to release, after this year, 1 film in 2026 and another film in 2027, the 2 Avengers movies. And that might do it. That might work. What do you think? Does Marvel need to slow down or take a definitive break? Well, some of you might be thinking, then why did Deadpool and Wolverine make so much money? Although now all of you seem to hate that film. It's not possible. And I've seen some people being like, we always hated it. Well, then how did it make over $1 billion? Well, here's what I think. I think that Justin Baldoni has not only done significant damage to Blake Lively, but also to Ryan Reynolds. And it's going to be a real uphill battle, I think, recovering from that. I think some of you don't even realize that's why you don't like Deadpool and Wolverine anymore. But I think part of the success for Deadpool and Wolverine was, of course, the nostalgia factor for the Fox X-Men. But on that note, it had been 6 years since the last Deadpool movie and 7 years since we'd seen Wolverine. So that's a big break to once again build up demand. I am curious with Avatar. There was such a big break between the first 2 Avatar movies, and James Cameron did it again. But there's going to be a much shorter break between the next 2, and I'm curious to see if that makes a difference box office-wise. But today we're talking about Thunderbolts, and I feel bad, as I said. Now we feel bad the movie hasn't done well, particularly for those of you who really connected with this movie emotionally. Many of you, and I really appreciate this, shared your personal experiences and reactions with me over social media. Some of you DM'd me your stories, and they were all beautiful. They were truly moving. And I can understand why some people are saying this is Marvel's Inside Out too. However, as I said, Hollywood is a mix, as I always say, Hollywood is a mix of creative and business. And while Thunderbolts is a huge creative success, business-wise, I think they might have only put their hat on partially. Always put on your business hat because of things like this happening. It should have had more action. The Winter Soldier, some of you were like, he's technically on screen. Yeah, but he was really, benched action-wise. And definitely they should have had more Sentry, because that's one of the reasons they couldn't really use Sentry to sell the movie, or else they would have given all of Sentry away. If they'd had more Sentry, they could have used him to promote the film. Also, while trying to avoid spoilers to respect those of you who haven't seen the movie yet, the developments here are actually a pretty big deal when it comes to the MCU. Yet the movie couldn't promote that because they don't happen in the movie. In fact, they happen, it seems, off screen between the end of the movie and the post-credits scene that has gotten everybody talking. It was brilliant for Marvel to add that. As I said in my coverage, it's both the best and worst post-credit scene, because it's a fabulous post-credit scene, but you're like, I would like to see that played out. And they're like, sorry, no time. It's weird. By the way, as has been revealed, that post-credit scene was filmed just 4 weeks ago on the set of Avengers Doomsday, and because they realized they needed something, and is directed, therefore, by the Russo brothers. Director Jake Schreier, who did Thunderbolts, was on set, being like, good luck, everybody. I love you. I support you. And I gotta say, and we're all saying it, based at least on that end credit scene, the Russo brothers seem to still have it. And the movie isn't diverse enough because, by the way, there's a rumor floating around. I don't know if this rumor is true, but it would explain the lack of Ghost in the film. The rumor is that she actually had a lot more scenes, but they were all with Taskmaster. So Taskmaster, of course, was mysteriously cut from the film, and so therefore most of Ghost's roles as well. And some of you, again, some of you might argue, why does that matter? Well, look at these diversity demos. Where did Thunderbolts dip? Black moviegoers. Where did they go? They most likely went to see Sinners. Yes, while Disney continues to have a very difficult 2025, Warner Brothers is having a great 2025. I wonder what this means for Superman. superhero fatigue or fantastic year for Warner Brothers in 2025. We're on pins and needles with that movie. Pins and needles. No matter what happens, it's going to be entertaining. But yes, while MCU fans saw Thunderbolts 2 to 3 times all in the same weekend, Sinners fans have been spreading out that love, seeing it one time each weekend. Some of you, I'm sure, saw it again for the 3rd time this weekend. And then also, of course, word of mouth is bringing in additional moviegoers. The result, just a 28% drop in its 3rd weekend. That's incredible. And that's with the loss, by the way, of its premium screens, the IMAX and the Dolby. Thanks to a lower budget, half of Thunderbolt's budget. See, this is an important point I want to make. We always talk about having a responsible budget for a movie, but I'd like to put an additional thought on that. Your movie needs to match the budget you have, right? I continue to think that Thunderbolts, as good as it is, feels like too small a movie for the budget that was spent on it. You need to have a movie that has a chance and has to, from a business perspective, it has to have a chance of recouping this expense that was put on it. So you might be like, this is a beautiful small movie as it is about feelings. You're like, but I don't have a feelings type budget. So you need to have enough action and, other elements. I also do think diversity was an issue to have a bigger, to have a wider appeal. So Sinners, Ryan Coogler, he has a beautiful business creative hat. Oh my gosh, wow. It has already passed its break-even point. Remember, Warner Brothers was like, we'd be happy with just 170. Well, you got it. You got your break-even point already. And with a domestic box office that's so strong, it's okay that its international box office hasn't been nearly as strong. What's more, so that, again, you can, low budget can help you survive having not as big appeal overseas, whereas Thunderbolts, that's vital to that film's success. What's more, Sinners is going to go back on IMAX screens, baby, thanks to demand from fans for 1 week starting May 15th. That's a Thursday evening. How did Warner Brothers swing that? Some people thought maybe they'd taken the screens from Disney with Thunderbolts. Nope, they've taken them from themselves. This is what's happened. They had IMAX and Dolby booked for Final Destination Bloodlines. Very hot movie, like one of the most watched trailers of all time for a horror film. But with all the hype for Sinners and fans saying, oh, I missed it in IMAX. And by the way, it's not all IMAX screens, only the really good ones in like really big cities. Like baby IMAXs will still go to Final Destination Bloodlines. But those sweet, sweet, artistic, fan-favorite IMAXs are going to get Sinners instead. And they'll just keep Final Destination on the Dolby at those multiplexes. And that will give Sinners 1 additional week of IMAX viewings. And a lot of them, by the way, are close to sold out already. Brilliant, not only from a box office perspective, but also publicity-wise. What a headline. And it was no mistake that, they could have announced this right before they were going to have the weekend where the movie actually started playing back again on IMAX screens, but they did it before this weekend to have that hype and momentum carry over even to these ticket sales on non-premium screens. It's beautiful. Sinners will almost certainly reach 200 million domestic and probably do better domestically than Captain America 4, Snow White, although that's no trick. And I'm sorry to say it might even do better than Thunderbolts domestically. Then, after that 1 additional week, Mission Impossible will take over IMAX screens and we'll get 1 Dolby showtime per day, late in the day, because Lilo and Stitch will get the rest of the Dolby showtimes. Although Lilo and Stitch is a family film, I don't know how dependent that will be on premium screens anyway. For what's expected to be the biggest Memorial Day weekend box office in Hollywood history. That means the biggest Memorial Day weekend of all time, ever. That's incredible. By the way, Stitch was spotted at I believe it's a movie theater in Los Angeles. I think that's the Century City Theater. I think I recognize that lobby. As Disney takes their animatronics to a whole new level and outside the theme park. That was really a good idea. I hope Stitch goes on the road. He's already on wheels. So Disney can feel really good about that. They've at least got Lilo and Stitch coming up. And as I said in my recent top 10 most anticipated movies of the summer video, I believe that the only 2 likely billion-dollar movies of the summer are Disney's Lilo and Stitch, and then also Universal's Jurassic World Rebirth. What do you think? As for the rest of the top 10, as I was saying, Warner Brothers is having quite the year. And look at Minecraft go. Still posting double-digit weekends, even in its fifth weekend, and it's closing in on $900 million worldwide. Ka-ching! That's a great movie. I think that's a very, very good movie. As the superhero genre wanes, it's the cycle of life in Hollywood, man. I feel that we're truly entering Hollywood's video game era. I think that's great. Embrace the new genre. This is what we're doing. Don't fight it. And while more and more video games are breaking through to the mainstream space, by the way, I bet you've seen headlines. I certainly have. What do you think I think I'm more attuned to the video game space. Maybe, this crossover starting from even though The Last of Us is kind of like, I suspect hit a brick wall, other exciting things are happening in the video game space. Nintendo, from movies to theme parks, really exciting stuff happening. So I saw the Expedition 33 headlines over the past week, and I bet you have too. And I think Grand Theft Auto 6, if it ever comes out, I think that's going to cross over to the mainstream space, even just like the consciousness for a video game as it releases. Usually the mainstream hears about these things weeks or months or years later, and everyone's like, oh yeah, that was a really hot game. But I think as the game releases, as Grand Theft Auto 6 releases, everybody, even the most casual or non-players, will be aware of it. I think it's going to be an event like we've never seen before. Again, if it ever happens. Back to this weekend's box office, both The Accountant 2 and Until Dawn both saw pretty significant drops in only their second weekends. That's particularly surprising for The Accountant 2 because it has such great scores. But I think that movie has a very similar vibe to Thunderbolts, so that might have been partially what hit it so hard, and it's just its second weekend. But I think The Accountant 2 from Amazon MGM is going to do very well on digital and streaming down the line. And it has brought in more money than Disney's The Amateur in half the amount of time. The titles even sound the same. The Accountant 2, this is just its second weekend, whereas The Amateur is 4 weekends out. And Disney should be careful. Both movies should be. Well, I think The Accountant 2 really is the one who can decide where they want to release. Because if The Amateur is too close to it, I think The Accountant 2 will steamroll it there as well. I haven't seen The Accountant 2 yet. The Amateur is actually not a bad movie. I think the ending is unsatisfying. That's actually a pretty solid movie. But The Accountant 2 is done far better. I think, by the way, that's interesting. Rami Malek, even if he tried, it didn't resonate as well. But Ben Affleck, and speaking of stars promoting films, Ben Affleck in particular, his Criterion interview really went viral. But he and John Bernthal really did a fantastic job, just like the Thunderbolts cast of promoting the film. It's interesting. Back in the day, you just had to walk some red carpets and do some print interviews. But these days, there are so many fun things you can do online, on social media, and on digital platforms. Like from answering random questions to eating chicken wings to petting puppies to going shopping in their Criterion closet. You really have to, it's a tremendous amount of work. And right now, stars do it for no extra cost. Their expenses only have to be paid. It's built into their contract, although it's becoming so much. I guess it helps the star as well, or the actor as well, into maybe becoming a star. Because Walton Goggins is also, Architectural Digest is a popular stop these days. But yeah, if you make the effort, I think it is at least somewhat although again, it didn't move the needle for Thunderbolts, but it's interesting. All right. Meanwhile, The Excellent Warfare really has struggled to find an audience despite excellent scores itself, a top-notch cast, and a very low budget. As I said on Friday's stream, I think there's a pretty good chance that this movie's poor performance was part of the reason that Zazie insisted on canceling James Gunn and DC's upcoming no longer upcoming Sergeant Rock movie. Angel Studios' King of Kings, even though it's no longer Easter, has still made much more money at the domestic box office than almost all the other movies, 4 through 10, currently in theaters. Then 2 movies from India round out the top 10. So no wonder there are rumors of Bollywood superstar Shah Rukh Khan joining an MCU project. They're not sure which one it's going to be. As I've said before, outside of North America, some of the biggest movie fandoms in the world, particularly for genre content, are Brazil and India. What do you think are some of the biggest global fandoms for genre content? Now let's head over to streaming, starting as usual with Nielsen, this time for the first week of April. Remember, Nielsen charts are a month behind. Sometimes we'll be having a discussion and one of you is thinking that we're talking about recent viewership ratings. This is a month ago, March 31st through April 6th. But look, The White Lotus with its season 3 finale, and season 3 finale, I believe, was just at the tail end of this. So it could be still on next week's charts as well. But they're at the top. #1, baby, that's amazing. No wonder Walton Goggins is everywhere right now, including hosting Saturday Night Live this coming Saturday. I'm very excited about that. But wow, let's see if his mysterious beef with Amy Lou Wood turns into a Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni situation. And I think he might be Blake in this scenario. It's a quietly but rapidly developing situation. And I hope he has a good PR team. But if he did, this wouldn't even be a thing in the first place. It could be bad. Let's keep an eye on it. Now, The White Lotus, though, as a show, is only gaining in momentum. And HBO was right to greenlight a season 4, which they did, I think, before this new season even started. That's incredible. We thought this was going to be the end. Creatively, again, some people feel it's not as strong. But, fan-wise, The White Lotus has never been stronger. But where is the season 2 announcement for The Resident? Still posting huge numbers. That's talk about a mystery. That one is frustrating. And Taylor Sheridan continues to be a pillar at Paramount, with 1923 continuing to grow in viewership. Look how high it's gotten. I think that's the highest we've ever seen a Taylor Sheridan show get on Nielsen's charts to date. Because in the past, Yellowstone, while a phenomenon, was on the Paramount Network. What the heck was that? It's gone now. But that was never tracked by Nielsen. With this show and all of Taylor Sheridan's other shows like Landman, I think you're going to see more and more Taylor Sheridan-esque shows on other streaming services. In fact, Netflix is launching The Waterfront mid-June from Scream and Dawson's Creek writer Kevin Williamson. I might have seen a couple of episodes, and I might think that Netflix really has something there. All right, so Netflix's pulses, speaking of Netflix, their pulse is on the overall chart, but it's Max's medical drama, The Pit, which is getting all the attention. And while The Pit can't make the overall chart, it's a weekly on Max. Pulse is a binge. And Max, by the way, clearly is a little on the low side when it comes to subscribers, which is why The White Lotus is #1 is such, while The Pit is a Max exclusive, whereas White Lotus airs on HBO and Max. But I think more and more people are switching from HBO to Max. I think that's partially responsible for why you're starting to see bigger and bigger numbers. I'm very curious to see what happens when The Last of Us hits these charts, especially after episode 2. But anyway, I think that the Pit, while it's here on the originals chart, the awards nominations are already starting to roll in. And I think, like The White Lotus, I think The Pit will grow in viewership from season to season. And by the time it gets to a season 3 or 4, it will be also as huge as The White Lotus is right now. They're even talking about getting bigger name guest stars because, that a lot of people come into an emergency room and they're talking about being able to get some stars on there. That's going to be a big deal. I love The Pit. And I love White Lotus. All right, still, no Daredevil, though. And this was 7 episodes into a 9-episode season, by the way, at this point. The Bondsman from Jason Blum with Kevin Bacon. Kevin Bacon still trying to earn back that money he lost in that Ponzi scheme. That was an 8-episode binge that just dropped the week that we're looking at here. And that was able to chart. That little show was able to chart, and Daredevil is not. That's really bad. And Prime Video, by the way, continues its successful strategy of dropping shows as a binge for their first season and then transitioning to weekly later on. They did it with The Boys. I think they're going to do it with Fallout, and you can see them doing it here. Then with movies, Disney Plus is still pretty strong in this space, although Mufasa, not as big as usual. But Moana 2, still going very strong. Over on Netflix's charts, starting with movies, even though it's apparently awful, people still watched Havoc, pulling in some nice numbers with its debut. Audiences clearly willing to give the charismatic Tom Hardy an infinite number of chances. Hey, I get it. I love Tom Hardy. There was an adorable video going around on social media of him having an interview about comparing sweaters with the interviewer. It was adorable. And I have to point out, by the way, that Netflix, I have to talk about it at this point because I've been looking at this for like 2 weeks now. They have cut Angelina Jolie out of the picture for her own movie in the overall top. She's in the little one below, but on top there's this dude. I mean, she's the star of the film. This was back when she was like at her most powerful. I mean, she's not as big anymore, but still, that this guy is the one. I can't believe. I mean, I guess her agent or manager or she herself doesn't check this stuff. You think they'd be like, Dear Netflix, what the hell? But it's crazy. It's really crazy. Like, who even is this guy? I mean, he looks vaguely familiar. Do you recognize him? I tried to look it up on online and I lost interest because it wasn't immediately apparent. But I was reminded that the male lead of this film is Ed Burns, and he's not in this photo either. This dude's getting credit for this movie. I find it hilarious. But that's kind of streaming for you in a nutshell. And also, Netflix is experiencing Pope fever as well, with 2019's The Two Popes charting. Because it's like, how do I get my Pope on, but for no extra cost? I'll watch The Two Popes. All right, with shows, the final season of You debuts here in first place with moderate numbers. It's time for that show to end. I stopped watching. I think it jumped the shark with the London season. While Ransom Canyon, a little soft. Maybe not the new Virgin River. Apparently, it's harder to be Virgin River than it looks. These numbers across the board are pretty small. I think there's nothing really exciting happening clearly on Netflix right now. But it's just for a week. I'm sure, Netflix, they have a ton of content. They're very good at it. They blow up other people's shows, as we've been discussing. Lioness, still on there. Then on digital with I gotta watch that. You guys said it's really good. Then on digital with Apple, it's nice to see Drop getting some love. It's a fun little movie. I think that's a good one. I think digital is a great space for that. While Mickey 17 is on sale, you can own it for just $10 or $9.99. Thank you very much. And that's put it back on top. Also, Conclave might not still be in the top 10, but it is number 11. Worth the extra money. That's a great movie. Any reason to get you to watch it, I'm in favor of. It's almost all recent theatrical releases here, as you can see, proving that shortened windows from theater to digital have indeed created a large group of moviegoers who prefer to wait for these smaller and sometimes even bigger films to go to digital. How about you? What does it take these days to get you to go out to the multiplex to see a movie? And when and why do you prefer to wait for digital? Is it just price point? Is it convenience? I think a lot of it's theater behavior, but I'm very curious to know what your thinking is these days. As for this coming weekend, at least Thunderbolts has a gimme of a second weekend with little competition, besides the competition it already has from Warner Brothers with both Sinners and Minecraft, still going very strong. Yes, it's weird. Hollywood has done nothing to program Mother's Day, really on the big screen or the small screen. Did you remember to at least get your mom a card? Have you made a note to call her on Mother's Day? By the way, on that note, I will be doing movie math on Monday next week because I shall be spending Sunday with my mom. All right, so for that weekend, in theaters, we've got Friendship, Fight or Flight, and Shadow Force, again, all hitting theaters. And I don't think most moms would be interested in any of those movies. Where are the rom-coms or the family films? I bet you that Minecraft has a pretty good hold yet again, because a lot of people make that their Mother's Day weekend movie. Often, even though they're celebrating mom, I think particularly for families with young kids, they pick a movie for the young kids. And so therefore, I think Minecraft could still do pretty well. On digital, on Tuesday, Warfare drops. Please see it. It's such a good movie. Also, The Luckiest Man in America, A Nice Indian Boy, and then also the John Wick making of documentary. I love John Wick. I think those movies, even when I don't think they're the best, I still have a good time with them. And it's a great brand. But I think that Lionsgate is expanding the franchise too quickly and with very little direction. I think they're ending up diluting it. I'm nervous. I think obviously this is supposed to promote Ballerina, which comes out the first weekend of June. But I don't think it feels like it's promoting Ballerina. I mean, unless that's part of the documentary. But, we'll see. It says Wick is pain, not Wick and Ballerina is pain. While with streaming movies, Vince Vaughn, he's going to try to capitalize on Mother's Day. Oh, this trailer looks absolutely awful. It's about a bunch of Italian grandmas and Susan Sarandon, who I'm guessing is a gilf, who are going to open up an Italian restaurant with Vince Vaughn. And Hulu has Summer of '69, which is about what you think it might be about, so don't watch that with your mom. All right, so then as for shows, today, Disney Plus just dropped the new Filoniverse series, Tales of the Underworld, to celebrate May the 4th. I was excited, but then I saw that they're only 15-minute long episodes. So now I'm a lot less excited, but at least you can binge them. I don't know. Maybe I'll use them, if I ever need something to watch for breakfast or before I go to sleep or something, but that's really disappointing. I think Omega's there, though, so I might watch it. All right, on Thursday, Poker Face is back with 3 episodes. Talk about staying away for a long enough time. That they had a little too many episodes and the gimmick got old by the end of it, But now that it's been a while, I'm excited for Poker Face to be back. And it's dropping with three episodes. And this season has even more big guest stars than before. It's a Columbo ripoff, but I don't care because I love Columbo. Natasha Lyonne is excellent here, and this is her show that she created along with Knives Out's Rian Johnson. We can leave out the Star Wars at this point. I think he's reinvented himself. Have you forgiven Rian Johnson? I think he's given us so much wonderful mystery content. I'm willing to let it go, although I know some of you will not. But I bet you're still watching these mystery shows and movies. I'm very excited for Poker Face. All right, also, Prime Video has a documentary about octopus narrated by Phoebe Waller-Bridge, who can sometimes be absolutely charming and hilarious and funny. But anyway, octopuses are or octopi. What's the plural? But anyway, they're amazing. I'm sure you've seen that video how they squish themselves into things and they're actually surprisingly smart. It's amazing. It's like pigs too. Pigs are also surprisingly smart. And I sometimes feel bad that both are sometimes on dinner plates. But anyway, and then it is very sad. Pigs can open doors, and I think octopuses can as well. All right, so while Conan O'Brien Must Go is back for season 2, starting on Max. Finally, on Friday, Ewan McGregor has his own travel series, Long Way Home, and that will be back on Apple TV. And RuPaul's Drag Race All-Stars begins at season 10 on Paramount+. I really love and I'm honored that some of you, there's a crossover a little bit between Beyond the Trailer and RuPaul. So I wanted to give that a shout out. All right, and that's this week's Movie Math. What have you been watching? What do you plan to watch? And what do you think will be Thunderbolts' global total when all is said and done? Share those thoughts down below, subscribe today, and of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.